everybody, John Sauer here, CKiW iRADIO 76. Welcome again to ALL4GEARS. Now, here's the new program that we've started just recently. What is we go in-depth of folks that we think you should know. And thank God we're here. And matter of fact, here today is Golling Roseville Moparts. Matter of fact, with Dave Radcliff. Hey, Dad.
Good morning.
Now, Dave, you better tell folks your official title here.
So I'm a little bit of do of everything. I'm, parts manager of Roseville Moparts, and I run between the body shop, service, parts, and restoration. So I do a little bit of everything.
So in case somebody needs to go to, they find Dave.
Yeah, I'm only a phone call or a text away. Now,
we should almost set the clock back a little bit here. Being that this place used to be the Detroit Italian Bakery.
Yeah, this building used to be, yeah.
So somehow, some way, Roseville Moparts had been along for how long?
So I started that when Goodmark came out in, I believe, 2003. And that's when I got into the restoration parts.
Wait a minute, you did?
Mm-hmm.
So you started this?
Yes.
Because the thought here is that this, Roseville Moparts was here before Golling.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're trying to get back into the time of you started this by yourself.
Yeah, so we had a shift in business with our part, because, when we took over this building, we renovated it. We had Yamaha and Articat in here, and the Mopar side shrunk, so we pushed all that back into the dealership. And with the downturn of business on the car side, and I found out Goodmark was coming to life with all the sheet metal parts that we've been wanting for a long time that were actually stamped full panels. I approached the owner at the time, Mr. Reel, and I said, hey, I got an idea, what do you think? And he said, sure. So I kept 3 people employed, and we ran with it, developed a website. I bought 2 CUDAs for marketing, that whether we could show what we sell and how it's on a car. So we actually had in the store, in the dealership, we actually had a black 70 CUDA that we built, ran it in Autorama for 3 years, and we used that as a marketing tool. We did some shows, we did some at the yacht club, they had some car events there sponsored by the dealership, and it just took off from there. And we've updated the website over the years, added product. We deal with 53 different parts vendors now. We ship all over the world.
It's almost one more step back. You're driving around Gratiot and you're going, say, there's a fine bakery. Maybe we should buy that.
Well, Mr. Reel at the time, he was looking to expand, and then this building came up vacant for a long time, and he was able to get it from the city pretty cheap just for back taxes and whatnot. And then we didn't know what we were going to do, but what we originally planned is we shut down the parts department in the dealership and made this the boutique. So this was the core of the parts department at one time, and where the cars are at up front was our store. I was buying Ertl direct, model cars, T-shirts. We did a publication in Cranes one year with Mike, and we had the store full of accessories, and then this was all parts and repair back here. And then, just over time and shrinkage, and the dealer business changed. We moved with the change and transitioned the parts back into the dealership. Power Sports came in, Power Sports went out, restoration came in when Golling came in. So it's been a big circle.
How did you get Power Sports out?
Basically, in 08, 09, when the recession hit, it just had a hard time with factory funding. So we just wind up, backing out of Yamaha and Articat, sold off the product, liquidated the parts, and then it just became dormant as a storage building for a few years. And, we had, 300s and SRTs in here at the time, and it was kind of like an offsetted showroom. So as it transitioned over, we started just using it. We got into the Gen 3 stuff, so I needed more room, for crate engines and all that. So as that took off, we needed more space, and then it just evolved from there.
So you've been here when it used to be Jim Reel next door. I mean, there's a Chrysler dealership next door, for those who don't know. And it's just the parking lot away between the 2 buildings, between here and now Golling. But before all that, if you were there then, people should know about your racing background or your background for all this. You just didn't say, gee, that's a pretty car, let's do this.
So my dad and my grandfather actually retired out of Jefferson North. And
wow.
They actually ran They actually ran a 63 and a 65 Plymouth that they actually bought here new.
Bought here?
They bought here brand new. My dad ran a 63 Fury turquoise with 383 4-speed. And he used to run at Milan, and he used to go to Detroit Dragway at the time. And him and my grandfather used to run as much as they could within working, and my grandfather retired. And then, you know, the car thing, they were looking to open up a J&J speed shop up on Harper, not too far from here. So my dad traded in the 63 and the 65 and bought a 67 Cornet from here and went to the 440 because he figured he'd bigger cues, be able to run a little quicker, and then it just never come to play. And you know, I think they were focusing on opening a business while they were working, and you know, so that's always been in me. You know, I've actually been here. I started here in '86, quit for a short time, came back in '88, and I've been here since.
I was going to say, so you've seen it from your dad, your grandfather, when they opened up their own parts place, their own high performance?
Well, they went. The problem is my grandfather died before that actually came to fruition.
Oh, okay.
They actually had to deposit on the building, and then unfortunately my grandfather passed, and my dad's aspirations kind of spiraled out, and he just quit doing it because that was his dad's passion. You know, so my dad lost that. So
your grandfather, he raced also?
Yep.
And he raced one of those Plymouths?
Yep. He raced the 65. My dad raced the 63. And there was a one time with the Cornet, they were doing test and tune at Milan, and Ronnie Sox walked up on him in the other lane. So, which was pretty cool. You know, my dad was kind of like, oh my God, you know, Ronnie Sox. And my dad was a nobody. You know, I've got a bunch of little trophies about this big that, you know, he had, you know, he won in his class, you know, second, third, a couple first places he won. You know, it was a good time back then. A lot of stories, a lot of memories, and then, you know, it just went from there.
I mean, if Ronnie Sox comes up to your dad and goes, "Where's your son? I want to talk to Dave." Yeah,
well, that would have been 69, and I was probably, you know, still in the belly at that point. So,
what class was your dad running? Your granddad running?
It had to be a stock class because there was really nothing special about the cars. You know, he had his car hopped up. But he drove it year-round. You know, my mom even drove it. I mean, she learned how to drive that 4-speed, and she could 3-pedal during the winter with that car.
Really?
They would take the cheater slicks off and just put regular snow tires on it and drive it. I mean, my mom was a trip, and she loved driving the car, but, you know, things change, you know.
So why didn't your mom get into racing?
She had 4 boys, so.
Even better. Why didn't she get in?
And I'm the youngest of 4, so.
And then, is it a full race family? Just you?
Just me. I'm since I've been here and I've been rooted into it so much, and you know, I developed the restoration parts on this side, and where we're at today, it's pretty primarily just within me. You know, my other 3 older brothers, they're kind of novices. You know, my oldest brother.
People?
No. My oldest brother, he's got a wide body Scat Pack Challenger. My other brother's got an early 6.1 first generation Challenger that he bought when he was stationed in Iraq. And then my other brother, you know, he was a Plymouth guy. Now he's a blue oval guy now. I don't understand why.
Cast adrift.
Oh, that's why he lives in Oklahoma.
I was going to say, is he welcome back for Christmas?
No. No, he's driving ponies now. He's got some kind of Comet thing I hear about, and I'm just like, for shame, bro. You shouldn't have gone that way.
And the reason why he went to the dark side?
Wife.
Worked for Ford?
No, she's a Hobby Lobby, but.
Wow, and he couldn't convince her? It's like, look, it's our family from my grandfather all the way down.
Yeah, he tried buying my dad's car, and I wouldn't let him buy it because I built it for my dad, and you know, that kind of set things in motion with her. But I don't know the reason for the comment, but it is.
Yeah, that's weird. That's something you actually have to go buy.
Yeah, and especially where he's at. I don't understand it because, you know, he's had Chargers, Roadrunner satellites. You know, he's always been a Mopar guy, and then all of a sudden he comes up, he tells me, "Hey, look at this car I got. I got a comment." I'm like, "What? Did you just throw up?" I go, "What? I don't understand what you just said." I go, "Come on." I go, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Whatever."
Is there any family intervention that could get them in a room?
No, that's why we're leaving them out in Oklahoma, but it's all good. I still love them.
Of course, we're just pulling the. We were talking about that on the way up here. One of the things that we really do miss, and you've seen racing I drag racing for so long. There used to be such good ribbing between the Mopar Chrysler guys, the Ford folks, the Chevrolet guys, and all that stuff. And that used to be one of the kind of the coolest fraternity things about, and now sorority things about drag racing, and we kind of lost that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. I mean, you take a look at some of the posters that are around here and stuff, and it's like, the Mopar no car kind of thing.
I think the biggest problem we have right now with the lag in interest of racing and cars itself is simply because there's such a generational gap between our age group that was in then and the groups that are below us that don't care to read the history or to know because they're worried about doing this all day. You know what I mean? Which all the information's there at their thumb, but there's nothing in vocational. The states took that away from the schools. And you look at all the industries that are in perils right now with hiring deficits and all that, and I don't want to get into that, but there's a huge generational gap in the car hobby for enthusiasts, restorers, kids that, where's the future going to be of the restoration and racing as we don't know, but there's a huge gap. And you look at the problems that Lid's having and all the other drag racing or strips that are closing around the town, around the country because of ordinance. People are popping up subdivisions around the track. Oh, we didn't know that was going to make that much noise. I mean, are you kidding me? You park your behind, 100 yards from a quarter-mile strip that could run nitro, and it's going to vibrate your house. And you're like, shame on the cities and the townships for allowing that. But again, it's all about business and money. But I believe, drag racing will always be there. To what extent in the future, I have no idea.
It's amazing. Somebody else just had a picture of Motor City Dragway. They did a drone view of this is where it's at. There's a bunch of trees kind of things. And they're like, oh, it's still there. We should go get it. And it's just like you said. And the noise ordinance would go.
Correct.
Nope. Because no matter, we know it was there. It was like Lapeer too. We know it was there, and then we built this $200,000 home, $500,000 home, and it's like, wait a minute.
Right.
We've seen that with horses too, where what a beautiful barn, what a wonderful horses around there. We didn't know it'd stink. We gotta get rid of those.
Until the wind shifts, and the only, if Detroit Dragway or Motor City Dragway actually came about, what are you going to run? Teslas? I mean, realistically,
racing's racing, but
is that the future of silent track? Is having a hybrid where you're going to run Teslas or a modified car with an electric motor?
But even they make noise. They make geary noises. They're not terrifically 100% silent. So somebody's going to find a bug somewhere.
You just tell them it's a pterodactyl flying down on them. I mean, that's about what it's going to sound like when it's screeching its tires. But it's. I just think where the future at is in restoration and performance in the hobby. There's just a big gap, and that was the first sentiment at Autorama this year, and I don't know if you were in the awards banquet or not, but that was the first thing that the key speaker had brought upon us is where's the future of the industry going? Where's that? And the common question that gets put to us is how many more cars are out there to restore? Because our primary business is helping the customer rebuild their car for either from their youth or what they have for their kid, so they have a project. So my main business model is let me help you build your car. How do you want it? And we have the guys to be able to do that.
The wild thing is too, and as you said this, there is that gap.
Huge gap.
From 74 to whatever, to when Challenger came back. For Chrysler, came back. I mean, Fox Body was always, thank God for the Fox Body, but it's like, how many people, when it comes to restoration, comes in with like, say, a Charger 2.2 and said, man, I need to get this thing all put together, as opposed to somebody that comes in with a 67 Fastback Barracuda and says, hey, you got fenders?
It's probably about 20 to 1 right now. It's surprising over the last year, when you scan through the emails and the inquiries on the website, the amount of people that are looking for, that 2.2 laser or 2.5 laser or the Shadow, the older GSS car that they had at one time, and it's just like that's in the land of nobody cares because there's no parts for them. So when somebody calls and say, "Hey, I've got a 76 Magnum," and I'm like, I understand you're in love with the car. I says, but you're in the land of nobody cares in manufacturing. You're going to have to find salvage or try to find NOS somewhere. And we try to help all the customers out as best we can. We have all the books going back to like 54, but it's just tough. It's very time consuming when you have, multiple inquiries that just go to dead ends.
Well, it's weird because there's obviously more people want to do their 70s. Matter of fact, we got a beautiful GTX just off camera over to the side here, 71.
Yep, 71 GTX, 440, 4-speed Dana car.
I can see somebody putting in hundreds or thousands of dollars into that. If you're going to get a Shelby Omni,
yep.
There was the malaise. This is where we lost everybody.
Yep.
Because there was nothing fun there. They were just the econo boxes. And we'll speak for Chrysler. And there was nothing. With the iROC-Zs, here's your sticker on the side. If you had the Roadrunners that just had the little louvers on the back and the really smogged out 318 or 360 lean burn.
Yep.
Dear Chrysler, you just want to go back into time and go,
well,
let me tell you how this is going to go.
And realistically, that actually started in 78 when everything went metric. So on a big 3 level, 78 is the pinnacle year of everything went from standard to metric. And it was all downhill from there because, that's when the first L body came out, Horizon, the old, I think it was a 1.6. Yeah,
1.6. Was it
5-speed.
Volkswagen engine?
Yeah, it was just really weird. And it just, because they, the whole horsepower thing, if you look at the history of, at least on the way I look at it from a dealer standpoint, if you look back of where all the horsepower gains and drops have been, it's cyclical. So, you come out of the 50s and 60s when everybody was ramping up their performance, you get into the late 60s, early 70s, it ramped up. And then all of a sudden, emissions kicked in 71, and everything started going down into the 70s. And then late 70s, they tried coming back with, this 400, 440 package or this or that. And then they came out with the 2.2, the 79, 80, 81, and they turboed that, and they came out with the 2.5, then they had the 2.6, and then the 2.6 turbo. So it's been pretty cyclical, and then that went down because of government regulation, and I think Chrysler was afraid to make a performance car, and then, then they brought the Challenger back because I'm not sure when the Mustang and the Camaro came back in the factory right around the same time, but when the newer LCLX body Challenger came into play and they had the 6.1, that was, again, another cyclical rise because now you got Tim Kaniskis and those guys over there running Dodge, and they're like, we want more. I'm like, okay, how much more are you going to get? Well, you got more right here. You go from the 5.7 392 to, DSR 1150. So it's like now we're at a rise, and now we're at an emission standpoint of detuning because of EV coming in, and now we're on a descent. So, if you look at all the performance gains, it's, it's cyclical.
It's amazing because you touched on a point, too, where Chrysler was afraid. Yep. So you would get the Mitsubishi Challenger or the Arrow. You take a look at some of the Pro stocks back in the day, even the Shadowoods cars had an Arrow, and you would think, what a drag that had to be to drive.
Oh.
Some said it was like pretty easy, but you see like Sox and Martin had a Colt. Ronnie Sox had a Colt, I should say, and it was like, because Chrysler was put in for Chrysler had so much momentum going up, and then all of a sudden, they didn't know what to do when the gas crisis hit. Nobody really did. I'm sure that if somebody brought in like an 81 car in here and you opened it up and you saw hoses all over the place and vacuum and then you kind of went, okay, no. So we kind of lost a whole lot there, and especially Chrysler did, and especially from what we hear, is when they put Challenger on the side of that Mitsubishi made whatever. It's like that was a slap in the face to all Mopar guys. Thank God, they came, and it was risky because they had the PT Cruiser come out. Yeah. And then they said, well, that was supposed to be a big deal, and then Plymouth guys were so happy when they saw the Prowler, and then when they really saw the Prowler, it was like, can we get something a little bit more than a V6 here? Dodge has a V10. you know, and then, yeah, and you're right, and we're going to get to the stuff behind us pretty soon, because that's an interesting story coming on. Coming through, when folks come here, and we know that there is more people do from, like, when they look for parts here. I mean, is it more from the 50s, more from the 60s, 70s? I mean, everything all the way up to the smog engines of 72?
I would say, respectively, probably like 62, 63, up to mid-70s.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
People doing stuff from what are they restoring from 76 besides an Aspen?
I mean, we still get A-body guys. We get the, Valari Aspen guys every now and again calling in.
Do you?
You know, we're starting to get truck inquiries. You know, we probably a handful of times a month we get guys looking for, late 60s, early 70s truck parts, which, we dabble in that a little bit. It's not our core business, but, we're not going to tell a customer no. If they do an inquiry, we're going to tell them if we can't get it, where to go, how to get it. I mean, we're networked pretty good. We're through all the vendors that we deal with and our knowledge, and then looking out in the outreach that we can get. If we can't get you the answer, it's unattainable. But I do know where a magnesium cross ram's at.
Do you now? Huh, that's unusual. Where would you get something like that?
I'd say things that make you go,
Things that we're so far ahead of ourselves. What's happening is that Mr. Golling that we just met,
Yep.
It seems like a car guy.
True car guy.
Okay, now, unfortunately, I guess he's hit hard times. He's got to drive a Buick instead of a fine Chrysler Mobile.
Bill's very eclectic. For a car owner, he's got,
we saw the 300 in his M1 garage.
Yeah, that was here. We did a little bit of work on that, and that's a pretty cool car. But he's very eclectic. He's got, war era Jeeps to Airflows. He's got a couple Packards, so he's not afraid. He likes what he likes. And, if he likes it enough, he'll buy it.
He's got Airflows?
Mm-hmm. He's got an Airflow. He's got a couple Packards.
A real Airflow?
I believe so. I haven't seen it, but he's got 38 cars, so he's pretty good.
38 cars?
And counting.
How big's that garage?
Which one?
The one that we'd like to marry into the family with,
Yeah, gene pool. But, he is a really good guy. The biggest thing with Bill is he's a true car guy, but the biggest thing that hits with me is he appreciates his employees. And he appreciates his employees as much as the customers. And he is the kind of guy where he would sit down and have a conversation with you in the customer waiting area and just strike up a conversation with the customer.
And he did here, and he did with us at M1.
Yep.
I mean, just showed up on his golf cart, and there you go. It's amazing that it's hard to find, as you probably well know, to find car guys anymore, because everybody wants to see what that bottom line is.
Yep.
How much money did we make? How much money did we this? And that's the one question that we asked him. It's like you could have, because when Jim Reel sold this, or Reel sold their part, and Golling bought in this, that was, I would assume, a crossroad. It's like, well, do you want the other building too, and everything with that?
Well, that was pinnacle, because up to us finding out that we were actually under or being shopped around to be marketed for sale, I was questioned pretty heavily on certain reporting and aspects of the business.
Yeah.
Which, if you've been in it long enough, when you get them odd questions of profitability and what are you doing, what are you selling, how are you selling,
flags.
Where's your volume, what percentages are you making on this, what percentages are you making on that, and I had to do a couple of different reports, and I'm like, something's up. So
I think we're being sold.
so then, we're going into the fall of 19, and right around, I want to say November, there was some rumors that Mike was shopping, and, he was ready to retire. He was ready to just, he was tired of working, you could say. Good guy, boat guy, but he was ready to move on to his next chapter, and and all of a sudden the survey company's out here dropping pins in the ground, and I'm like, I walked into the GM's office that says, there's only two reasons why you drop survey pins: city's redoing their thing, or you're up for sale. I go, give me the skinny. And he goes, we're up for sale. I can't tell you who or when, but once we get closer to closing and doing whatnot. So then, we had to do a full inventory twice, and then it turned out, we found out in December that the Golling Group was going to buy us. And I was elated, because about all the groups around, I've known Bill for probably better part of 20 years. Just meeting him here and there, just subtly. And then to find out that he was actually the purchaser of our dealership, I was relieved. I didn't want any of the other competing dealerships buying us. And not that it was my decision or my input didn't mean anything, but I was very elated when I found out that who was buying us.
Is this coming with David Radcliff? Sold!
Well, no, not so much, but they were very intrigued because of, doing the parts thing for 20 years, and we were did service off and on. We did, full restorations for customers off and on. And then Mike just got frustrated with it under the prior ownership, and so we quit doing that for a while. And then after we took over with Bill, we wondered what to do with this building. It was just a warehouse, and then we had conversation with Yamaha again because all the slat wall was in here still. So it would basically be a plug-and-play business if we brought them back in. So through 21, we were like, we had all the meetings we could. Chip shortage came about. Yamaha was very dependent on chips out of Japan, and they couldn't promise us anything. So we kind of scratched our head, and we all kind of looked at it ourselves in a meeting, and we're like, okay, what do we want to do? And I was like, well, let's do a leap of faith. Let's take all the restoration stuff out of the main dealer, and let's have a retail footprint. Let's have a store presence. Let's put a sign out front. Let's take that leap to see really how much we can expand and keep moving forward with that type of business. And let's forge forward and see what and how much more we can do. And so going into the fall of 21, the Wagoneer came out. We did the Wagoneer reveal the same day we did an open house over here. And here we are. Fast forward.
How long, we should go backward. How little of sleep did you have that night before you had to come in the next morning and pitch that?
I normally sleep 4 to 6 hours a night anyway, so it was in between my naps, we were talking. But, Matt Godfrey, the GM at the time, him and I were pretty enthusiastic about getting this on. We talked to the Gollings about it, and, they agreed. We came up with the sign. Bill actually came up with a little bit of the design and the coloring of the sign. We revelished about the naming, and I was like, look, we've been selling parts for 20 years under Roseville Moparts. Let's just do that and put behind it powered by Golling. And they said, okay, we're good with it. The sign went up. We opened the door. We filled it up,
So to be clear, because some folks are saying, are you guys a separate entity? Are you a part of Golling? I mean, what are you? You're a subsidiary of SED.
So basically, we're a business within a business. We're still umbrellaed under Golling Chrysler of Roseville.
Okay.
But we operate as a separate identity. So it's, Roseville Moparts, also known as Golling Roseville, or vice versa. We're umbrellaed under the Golling brand, primarily through the Roseville store. So
you're not going to go away anytime soon. There's a little bit of green coming your way in case it's got to sell that Buick.
We're doing pretty good. We did sell a Buick for him. 85 Buick Regal, I think he had.
He had one?
Yeah, he bought it. We sold it here.
Let me guess, small turbo on it?
No, I think it was a 3.6 or a 3.8.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not a GM guy, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah. So we review things every month, and we just keep looking at where we have holes and where we can do better, and we just keep forging forward and trying to maximize.
But how do you do that? It's a tough business. Packet to put together, because this isn't like selling 5 300s that day, or this isn't, because it ebbs and flows.
Right. So a lot of the parts are cyclical. Sometimes we'll sell 20, 30 a month, and we won't sell any for 5, 10, or 15 months. So we cycle them in and out depending on demand. But the biggest thing is with being attached to the dealer for so long, you learn and you've been trained to listen to the customer. Mm-hmm. You've been learned and trained how to take care of the customer. So Ryan and John, my parts guys, they've been in the business, not as long as I have, but, between, John's been in it probably for almost 20 years. Ryan's been here 10 years, and they've learned most of what I know. And being able to be in the dealer business, they've learned how to interact with customers and listen. So the biggest thing is listening. If you listen to the customer and you know the right question to ask them, you can get to where they want to be. And then if you keep it open-ended and you keep asking the customer, then you don't know where your sales potentials are going to be. Because when we first started this, that's how it was, and that's how I ran it when I was doing it all. is, oh, by the way, do you know that we're a Chrysler dealer? How are you building your car? Are you doing a stock build? Are you doing a modified? What are you doing for engine and tray and suspension? So when you start opening up all those open-ended questions, engaging the customer and listening to them, you gain that confidence and respect. And this is where we excel over the box stores that, will give you the glossy catalogs, and they have a guy on the phone that's an order taker, or you go in and you try to get that code and you find out that you don't really get the code pricing, and then you get charged an exuberant amount of shipping. But the biggest thing is when you call here, you get a parts guy that understands the cars. You get a guy that can work with you and help you, understand, okay, if you're putting the headliner in, do you need the cell boards? Do you need bows? Do you need clips? Do you need the wires?
As opposed to where you would get it from the catalog guy.
Right, because the catalog guy doesn't know the cars. We have the cars here. We're building cars here. We're servicing cars here. So it's really a priceless tool, even going back when we started and we built the CUDAs, having the customer walk in and they go, hey, how does this molding look on the car? Well, come here, let me show you. Because we installed and sold what we sell and installed. So, and it's same in fashion with the cars here, is a lot of the parts that we sell are on these cars. So it's invaluable.
See, that's kind of what, it's unclear, it's hard to explain Roseville Moparts to somebody that's just coming in. I mean, what are you guys? Well, we're a restoration point. Really? We can also buy the parts here. Really? Mm-hmm. We can also get the new engines here. Really? We can also build all your stuff up on the chassis and all that stuff. Really? Mm-hmm. We have old school mechanics here. We should say old school mechanics because Vince is very good. Yep. Old school to me just seems like it's like a dumb term. It's a guy that knows his stuff.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And this isn't easy because there's not a whole lot of people that know or remember all the little fun things that you had to do to build a 340 correctly.
That is correct.
That's all gone. You also paint the cars here. You do the body stuff here. I mean, in theory, you take it from soup to nuts.
Yep, we can.
Anywhere in between. You don't have to go through the whole 9 yards. I mean, some of the stuff and we'll have pictures of this afterward, of the cars that are in the showroom. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost like you stepped into 1970 here, because all those cars are mint. I meant to tell you I'm going to take two of them.
Well, we'll have to have you back, too, because our Canadian customer just dropped off a 68 Charger yesterday, and we're putting the DSR 1150 in it. So
we've heard that there's kind of swaps like this. I got all the way to the point we got a Canadian customer in bringing a Superbird. Damn it. All right.
Oh, we do have that coming in. Yeah.
I know. That's so you'll see us sleeping here at.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, the stuff that you see coming in, because there are a lot of folks. I mean, you don't see restorations coming to you like in baskets and go, here, help, or do you?
Well, the Superbird we got a white-on-white Superbird we're doing right now. It's a V-code car, really cool car to be once it's done. But that's how it came to us. I went out, drove probably about 3 hours to go look at the car, and a customer brought it to us, and pretty much, somebody started the body work. Car's already stripped down, but
started the body work.
Yep. So they've already started the body work, and we've seen some, pimpling of rust underneath some pieces of the primer. They didn't do a lot of cleaning and prep work to get the old undercoating off. So it's, unfortunately we're re-stripping the car, and then we have to start at the foundation to make sure it's good.
It reminds me of those signs that say our hour rate is $50, $60 you help, $80 if you touched it before.
Yeah, but that'll be a cool car to do, and we also have a Hemi Cuda coming in for a lady.
Dave, can somebody call you up and say, look, I got something in the barn, that barn find, I'm not sure what it is, I'm not sure the value of it. Can one of your folks come out here for whatever the fee is and give me an idea of what we're talking? Is something worth it?
I mean, if it's relevant to what I'm doing, yeah. If I don't see any relevancy to it, then I'd say, I just don't have the time to help you. But
take a picture?
Take a picture. Usually what I do is I usually try to sell, send me the documentation that you have, send me pictures of the car.
There we go.
Get me in front of some of the information without having to be there. I have no problem going to look at a car for restoration or for mechanical work or potential buy the car for the customer. But it really, It just depends on what it is.
I mean, the GTX over here and the cars that are in there, these are yours, quote unquote, yours to sell, right?
Yep.
So when you saw this car, obviously, I don't think they came to you in this condition, did they?
The convertible did, the Dart did, the Challenger did, the GTX we actually went through and restored that to an extent. We got a little bit more work to do on that, but
well, let's talk about the GTX. You saw this thing because it's a beautiful car right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of my favorite years, GTXs. It wasn't in the shape that it is presently. So when you looked at it, you go, this has possibilities? Or did somebody reel it in and go, look, guys, want to buy this? I mean, how did this car get here?
So I bought that with a 71 Challenger from a gentleman out of New York. And we got the car, and it had a couple issues on it, and I found a couple more issues. And then over time, you can tell it was spotted in here and there. So, you know, I talked to Adam, our GM, and I'm like, look, you know, really we need to clean this car up. So we ground it all down, you know, cleaned up the interior and just restored it.
I mean, are you actively looking on computers for cars that you can redo? I mean, how does that work? Because it's just...
the concept we have right now is let me help you build your car.
Okay.
So Mike, a gentleman that works for us, he's good at finding cars, and he's very good at his knowledge base. So with that, you know, he brought up the idea of, and Adam and I had kind of touched on this probably a few months back.
You know what, we should name all the folks that are here. You know, the folks behind the counter, Mike, Adam, everybody else.
So my main parts guys is John Soulier. He's been with me for probably 15 or 18 years. Long-term dealer employee. Ryan Radcliff, which is my son. A little nepotism. He's learned a lot. He's the nerdy one of the group because he's all over, you know, the digital and multimedia stuff. So he you know, watches all those guys online. His brother Joe does the same thing. Vince Jugowitz is our main mechanic. Jacob Lucas is his apprentice, which is learning. He's the younger guy that in the back. We've got Mark Hayush, which is our other mechanic that does the Gen 3 stuff and a lot of mechanicals on the body side. We got Eric Cusimano, which is our main body fab and painter. And then Vince, the other Vince, we call him Vinny. He's our other body guy. And they actually come from a shop that did SEMA type work.
Yeah, tell that story because it's fascinating.
So fortunate. So we've been in business with this company for a while, and the owner fell sick and turned out that he had passed because of cancer. And Eric, his son, was running the shop and trying to do his best to do that. And, you know, again, it's all about how much work you have. Do you have the capital to keep it going? He tried for about a year to keep it going, and it just got to the point where he wanted to keep working, but he couldn't maintain the business because he just wanted to be a worker. He didn't want to run the business. So he let that close down, and we hired them on this past November, and they've been doing great. You know, we've got a lot of work stacked up for them.
Ching.
Yep.
I mean, what body guy doesn't like to hear that?
You know, and the good thing is where do you find, you know, a pair of 30-year-old guys that want to block a car and paint it? Body guys.
Nowhere.
Body guys are almost non-existent. You know, unless they're a gypsy bouncing around. You know, good quality body guys are very difficult to find. Just like Vince and his knowledge with the old stuff. You know, and back to that generational gap and vocational problems in the schools. That they're just now starting to reinvent the wheel for some reason. They get that restarted when they should have never taken it out. You know, and then that's where we're at today.
It's the stuff that we've seen in back. And if you come to Roseville Moparts, it's an unusual layout. You know, I mean, for the stuff that you see, the general public stops about right there, right where the GTX.
Generally, yeah.
But then there's this catacomb of all over the place, and there is, and we've talked about this before. It's like one of those postery things that you see at Autorama, where you see like all these muscle cars in front of some kind of a drive-in. If you go in the back, and if you're a Mopar guy whatsoever, you'll never want to leave the place because there's all these like 71 Barracudas and there's GTXs and everything is mint. You know, and it's in the different parts, and that's why we had to take a look at some of this body work, because a lot of the body work, people with restos, get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out, stuff that we've seen on TV shows, you know, that look fine, and everybody knows who we're talking about, the ones where they look good as soon as you get out the door, but God, don't hit a bump. You know, watch the Bondo fly through. You, on the other hand, you actually talk about getting new spray booths in here. I mean, business is that good.
Yeah. So you know, we got 40-year-old downdrafts. We had an air handler go down, and to replace the air handler was almost just around 50% cost of a new booth. So Mr. Golling likes to have his stuff pristine. So he's like, okay, let's just let's get 2 new booths. So right now we got one about 90% ready. It should be running probably in the next week or 2. So and then we got Edison coming out. We got to beef up our meter, because we're going from a 900,000 BTU booth to a 1.2. You know, so we got a 3 million BTU meter. We got to go to a 5. So that thing's going to be a spinning fool.
How does that work? I mean, you just having to go, hey, Bill, got you a coffee. By the way, we could use a couple more downdrafts.
He believes in efficiency. You know, he believes in having all his stuff up to date. And he is very in tune to all his buildings. You know, he's got 7 dealerships, and he wants all his mechanicals in his buildings current, up to date, and as efficient as possible. You know, and when he looks at a point of, if it's close to 50% to repair it, replace it. Because if it's that old and it's 50% of the cost to repair it, the new unit you're going to get is going to be much more efficient.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's basically how his train of thought is. And, you know, he's put a ton of money in the 5 buildings here. And you know, the employees see it. We appreciate it, because he is an active owner. You know, I think Bill's going to be 73 this year. You know, he has a pulse on his business and all his buildings. He can tell you probably what his utility costs are each building. I mean, that's how in tune he is. But
he's got other dealerships. I mean, he's got a Buick dealership and this, that, and the other thing. Does he have another, like a Buick version of this? Like a Moparts? No. You know, I mean, just the Mopar part of the side is that. So somehow, does he have a prior connection with Chrysler Cars that he just loves this, or because he does come over here, right?
Yeah, he's here usually, probably about every other week. He pops in.
Here. And asks you, or does he get the keys and take out with the Barracuda, or?
No, he's got his own cars to drive, but you know, he'll come and walk through. He'll say hi to everybody. He'll do his walkthrough and just see how everything's going.
He's not nervous, because normally, honestly, everything that has to do with high performance, drag racing, retro-y kind of stuff, if it's coming from another source, the finances, they want to know, what are we doing, how much are we doing, how much, you know, and it's almost to a point where it would break a normal man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for you, I'm surprised that you could just go up to Bill, because we're on a first name basis now, you know, and just say, hey, look, we could use a couple more booths. Because going out on a limb and saying, look, we just went and bought a couple of Hemis in a crate. The bean counter is going to say that's going to be assets that are going to just sit there. We just went out. Yep. I mean, do they give you a leash? They understand that you're not going to buy something that is just going to be sitting around? That's a lot of pressure on you, isn't it?
As Adam, our GM, says, it's a law of turns. If I'm turning it, it's irrelevant. I can buy it.
Then,
but again,
that's super bird.
But it's all relative to frozen capital. You know, I have to be conscious of how much inventory we have, who we're buying, what we're buying, the year, if it's a cyclical part, just like on the Chrysler side. You know, I watch that. I watch all the inventories. You know, I go through them once or twice a week. So we just got to be conscious of what we're buying, how we're marketing it, how we're selling. You know, Mike does a good job for us on our social media. He's taking that over.
Mike who? I don't think we got the last name.
Bell Cars.
Oh, there you go.
So Mike's a good guy. He's been a pretty good asset for us. He's got a wealth of knowledge for as young as he is. You know, he's a Blue Oval employee, but he's a Mopar guy by heart.
How does that work?
I don't know.
Did it slide through the crack? It was like very small letters and works at Ford?
He might. But again, we had a trans guy here that worked with me when I started.
Transmission guy, you mean?
Yep. He was one of our heavy guy. Now he's a lab tech guy with Mike in the same building. But he's a Mopar guy too. So it's kind of funny that they run in the same quarter, and their passion is Mopar. So Mike has been instrumental in trying to help us market the cars, sell the cars. We'll get back into buying cars here pretty soon. But he's just helping, with his knowledge and sharing and help us, forge and move forward. I'm always looking for, if we can bring somebody in that has a different knowledge base or tell us something that we're not doing, I'm not afraid to ask that question, because if you don't know, you don't know. And I'm not too proud to say, I didn't know that. So I'll admit when I'm wrong, and if I don't know, I'll tell you. Because when it comes down to the customer and communicate with them, if they find out that you give them the wrong answer or steer them astray, you just lost them as a customer.
And Mopar guys are extremely sensitive.
Oh, they are.
Big time.
They are, and it depending on what car. So like if you're dealing with a guy with a Hemi Cuda versus a Rogue Runner, that Hemi Cuda guy is going to want to pick fly shit out of pepper on everything, to where the Rogue Runner guys make, it's okay. And then your A-body guys are like, we're good, make it run. So for each car, there's a different perception of ownership. And I'm not saying stereotypically they're all the same, but with what kind of car you're dealing with when you got them on the phone or in front of you, and how to handle that customer. Because it really comes down to listening to the customer, respecting what they're saying, respecting their time, and then giving them an honest answer. So for me, bringing Mike in and relishing around what we have right now just makes us even stronger as a group. So I believe right now between, Eric, Vinny, Mark down the street, Eric, Jacob, Mike, Ryan, and John, and Adam's perspective every now and again, we have a really good team running this side.
The funny thing is, too, that you also said, I think, unless it encompasses those guys, that you actually have to look to hire. I mean, business was actually tough where you brought in those three guys from that body, where normally, resto shops or whatever, and it helps to have Bill's checkbook behind you. I mean, if you were J&J, that'd be kind of like, we get parts when we do,
right.
To walk over to Bill and say, hey, can we go buy this car? Because now, and again, here's yet another slice of the pie. If somebody wanted to get a nice, say, 67 Barracuda with 340 and fiberglass front end, if people are looking for a real retro car, ready to go, here's the key, title, everything, they can come here. This is just as if for people that have cars that they want to build up and stuff, or looking for parts. There is literally a showroom here.
Correct. Yeah, so we have, 10 or 12 cars right now we got in process of either finishing or that are done, ready to go. We have customers every now and again that come in, they want to trade a car in. We traded out the 71 Cuda we had, 344 speed shaker car, for that lime green Dart. A local customer ours, he just wanted to change up his selection. But yeah, we have customers coming in and, hey, can you find me this? Do you know where this at? The gentleman that actually is going to be buying the 68 Charger that we're putting the DSR in is out of Wisconsin. The guy actually owning the car and building the car that we're building it with, that I supplied all the parts for, is out of Canada. So he's actually looking for a 69 GTX that I'll be getting with Mike with here pretty soon to see if we can find him a suitable car, and then we can find him a car that he wants. So
of course we'll just even stay with the Dart over there. That's online somewhere, right? So somebody in Sweden could look at it, or somebody in Wisconsin can see it, or somebody in Warren could see it, and say, look, if you want to come in, take a look, here's all the pictures, just like a dealership would do.
Right, so on the Roseville Moparts page, we actually have a cars for sale tab, and in the cars for sale, it takes a little bit for it to load because there's just so much data in the website. We've got probably over 7,000 pieces in the part store, which bogs down that, but
7,000 pieces?
I got to compete with the big box stores. I don't provide a glossy book, but I do provide, very sufficient parts people that'll be able to answer your question on the phone, and the website. So the website is very functional on the parts side, but yeah, they can see the cars online. There is a tab there on the Roseville Moparts page, cars for sale. You click on that, it'll take a minute for it to load. you'll see I try to update the pictures as much as I can. But we're looking to fix that and update that as we go.
All right, so I'm looking, I'm in Happy, Missouri, and I'm trying to find a fender. I mean, would I go to that website and look down and see if there's a fender for a 67 Barracuda there?
Yeah, so the website itself is actually designed two things. It's a marketing tool, and it's a tool for us to use. I built that catalog like a parts catalog, and revolving around the old performance book. So in cataloging, you have to break it down so there's like commonality between the groups. So I've used that, and I built a website based on the parts catalog and groupings based on how Mopar Performance used to list their stuff in the old P-books that, again, they put them out of print because we can't get anything. But it's very functional, so I have it broken down into each group. Each group has a category. I've had them broken down to, A, B, or E body or truck. And then you can search it by any which way. You can go pin by category. You can just search by fender, and it'll show you every fender. Anything related that has fender attached to it in the catalog will populate.
Now, are these new fenders?
New or used. We have a certain amount of used stuff that's online. We have a certain amount of used product that's here. It's primarily new stuff, but
I was going to say, you can get new fenders, pop fenders.
Yeah, we're set up with Dynacorn, AMD, Goodmark.
AMD? Ching.
Yep, so, we're tied into all the metal manufacturers, so we can pretty much get all that,
But we should talk really quickly and real fast, is that there are some aftermarket fenders, quarters, whatever, that you look at it and you go, not even close. But it was cheap.
It was cheap. The problem is there's 3 primary sheet metal stampers in Taiwan. Okay?
Yeah.
And they supply everybody. So it really depends on, what you have. So the way I put it to the customers when they call me and saying, what's the best panel out there? First thing I say is availability. If you got to have it now, you got to find it now. You buy what's available, and you have to incur whatever problems that may come with it. The biggest thing with restoration panels and these old cars is they're 40, 50-year-old cars, and they put body caulk in them for a reason. So these cars were slapped together, on a line.
Not Chrysler's.
First, second, or third shift, haphazardly. Gapping was never an issue. Quality of paint was never an issue. They were just put together.
Yeah.
So now the guys are trying to over-restore the cars with reproduction panels, and these are reverse engineered. So they're based off of, that scan is based off of this panel, not your car. So the 2 problems you have with any restoration panel is it your car that's out of spec, are you the original owner and know all the history of it, because that's a common argument, or is the panel really that different? But I can tell you, there's absolutely no 2 panels in restoration that are the same.
None.
I've personally hung quarter panels on 70 Cudas. I put AMD on one, and I put a Goodmark on another. The Goodmark fit a little bit better on one side, and on the other side, the AMD fit a little bit better. So now you have to take into consideration, is it the car or is it the panel?
Wow.
And that's, a lot of people don't understand that. Or we'll send a part out, and they're like, you sent me the wrong part. And they're like, okay, my car has this on it. Are you the original owner of the car? Do you know any backstory? Well, I've only owned it for 10. You got a 50-year-old car. What's right, what's wrong? I'm telling you, what we know or see is right. What you have on the car is wrong. So every now and again we get into that little bit of riff with some customers because they get strong-headed about, this is my car, it's all original. We can't argue with the customer, but we can tell them and say, hey, this might be incorrect for your car because this is what I'm seeing that's incorrect. And we'll try to give them that information.
Do they ask more for, like, can you find me something that was in California or Texas, like an old fender?
Yeah, we do have guys looking for, rust-free sheet metal. We do deal with a couple salvage yards around town or around the country. That's not a problem.
Do you lean towards that? I mean, if somebody says, find me a fender for the Barracuda, do you say, well, let's first see if we can find something at a junkyard, or do you go, look, AMD's here?
Depending on the customer. So if it's a customer off the street or on the phone, a lot of times it'll be, can you find me a good used salvage piece? And if I don't have it here or know if I can get it locally, I'll point them in that direction. More commonly is, can I get an NOS piece? So we've got a couple customers we deal with that do, 1,000-point show cars. So when you're dealing at that level, they want NOS stuff. So NOS has its own problem because now you got 50 years of shelf wear, even though you've got a brand new part. Is it distorted? Is it good? Is it bad? You don't know. So, with that said, here's for instance, I had a gentleman wanting a right quarter panel NOS for a 70 Hemi Cuda. And one of my local customers actually had one. And right sides are very, very tough to find.
Why?
Because...
That's where everybody hits?
No, everybody hits the left side.
There you go.
So left sides are more prevalent. It cost $8,000 to get me a quarter panel.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those who want to redo your car, there's two different ways to do it. One way is kind of like, your brother-in-law,
Yeah.
sprays out of your garage with the guy cutting the lawn next door and grass clippings get stuck in your Emron, it's not going to be cheap.
No, restoration, materials have gone up 2-3 folds over the last few years. First thing I ask the customer, what's your expectation of the car done? And how can we help you get to that point and be mindful of your budget, or you don't have a budget? I don't know a guy, unless you're a dealer owner like some of the ones we know, don't have a budget. They just want the car done. So
they don't have a budget? We got to get them on the Christmas list.
Well, we do have a couple customers like that where, they just build them and it is what it is when it's done. But a lot of the people that we deal with are mindful of, their dollar. And, my job or our job is really to understand, what do they want? Are they looking to do all your suspension and driveline first? Are you looking to do your interior first? Are you looking to do your paint and body first? Are you going to do it in segments? Do you want us to do it? Do you want us to do, like the 69 Charger back there? He had somebody else. Car's been apart for 12 years. He just had a body shop paint it. He wants to put it together, but he doesn't know how. So we met him at Autorama. Now the car's here. I gave him an estimate to put the car together, so we're going to give him a turnkey car. Now, I'm okay with that because you can bring me a partial project or a full project, and we'll do it. We'll help the customer get and achieve what they want to achieve within their expectation.
Now, you can't give anybody a time frame. You can probably come kind of close, but you never know what you're going to run into. It's like doing an old house. You think it's going to be great, and you run into a plumbing situation. It's like, oh, man.
Yep.
And then try to find parts now, et cetera, et cetera. But when somebody comes in with all these crates and things, you kind of go, we'll see you in a year. Because really, it's not like as they come in, we can get these things out. It's not like going to a dealership for an oil change.
Correct. So the biggest thing is, like Dan with this Charger is he still has to bring me the engine, but I've got all the core parts here, or most of them. So we dropped the car off, and then he brought me another trailer with all the parts. So now what I do is I go through and I inventory every piece. I write it down, and I sit there and say, okay, I know what I have. Then I got to look at what we're going to clean, because he's budget conscious. He's a retired gentleman. So I said, we're going to use as much as we can of the original stuff. We're going to send it for Media Blast, we're going to prime it, or we're going to send it for Powder Coat. Whatever you prefer, it's up to you. But it's all time and material, and it's, we're trying to be as efficient as we can to be in tune with the customer and make sure we're upholding to their expectation and a relative timeline. I can't have these cars here for 3, 6, 8, 10 months in a service repair, because that's not good business. I don't want to store anybody's car, nor do I want it sitting here. So if it's a part we got to get, he doesn't have, we'll find it. So my goal with this car is to get it back to him within the next 3 months.
Can you do, I should have asked this before, is somebody's going to, look at my seats are all ripped up.
Yep, we do that in-house.
You can do that? Obviously you can buy seats, but the upholstery, the carpeting, a lot of those things for Chrysler, that fine nylon loop didn't actually last long.
Yeah, so the 80/20 loop carpets, we have, all the black carpets in stock. We need colors. We usually get color carpets within a couple weeks. Same thing with headliners, door panels, all the trim. We're set up with all the main manufacturers that make that. You know, we deal with Legendary and SMS, PUI on some stuff. But, yeah, we can do vinyl tops, we can do glass, we can do paintwork, we can do mechanical, we can do suspension, you know, Gen 3 conversions. You want exhaust done, we got a mandrel bender here. We can bend and make exhaust if you want.
Can you find red line tires?
Yeah.
Thinking of things to stump them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I do have an order of, you know, polyglass coming in, so we're going to get set up with them again. So hopefully I'll have a good inventory of polyglass, so guys don't have to wait 4 or 5 months for polyglass.
All right, so now as we round the bend, there is on the other side, when they sell the brand new Challengers and stuff like that, there is a hard time to high performance them from coming out of Chrysler because they wouldn't let you touch them, quote unquote. Okay. Chances of them easing up on that? So, because we've talked about Golling being a Mr. Norms or a setup as such. Tell the folks what that entails.
So, what we can do on the new stuff, being a Power Brokers dealer, is we can get the tuning kits to do that. But it has to be done pre-delivery of that car, kind of like the Mr. Norms thing.
Pre-delivery. Oh, yeah,
so,
okay, right.
So that, now that the codes have unlocked and they're working with the programmers and all that for that stuff, there's a certain amount of kits and levels that we can get to modify the cars on the performance level that'll be backed by the factory warranty. Those kits are just now starting to come around. So we're kind of wondering, are the cars going to be here once these kits get here? So with this last call, the 392 cars will be around for a little while because, you know, that's a staple motor still. But on the direct connection side or Power Broker side, yeah, we have the ability to, once these kits become available, to take a 392, do, you know, the pre-stage, stage 1, stage 2, and give them a different horsepower band under a factory warranty.
Under a factory warranty?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what happens if I have a 2019, or 2019, and say, hey, look, you guys got that kit, can I bring it in? Can you guys have it up?
We can do it. We can do it, but durability is on the customer.
So no warranty implied?
So we would reiterate the warranty standards of Mopar Performance. You know, there isn't. Just because we don't know the characteristics of the car or anything, any backstory of the car. You know, you buy a 4-year-old Hellcat, what are you going to get? It's going to be low miles, but they're going to be low hard miles, depending on the driver. You know, so if we get a guy with a Hellcat or a 392 in it, I mean, we've had legit scat packs roll out of here, and within a week they're back with broken differentials.
Under warranty.
Bringing it in for warranty that turned out to be a $10,000 bill under customer pay.
Ow.
Because we won't play the game and jeopardize our warranty status with Chrysler because of owner abuse. And we had that problem. Gentleman came in, told his son, hey, buy whatever car you want for your graduation. He came in, wrote the check. He rolled out with a 392 Charger. A week later, come back on the hook, leaking fluid. We look and the diff was just exploded.
How did that happen? Sudden acceleration in snow?
I would guess by the amount of rubber in the wheel wells on the bottom of the rear fascia, it was brake to acceleration issues.
Ah, okay. And that's sudden acceleration.
We're just speculating here by the...
And that's not covered under warranty?
No, sir.
Under a new car, and it's like, well, it looks like some factory defect?
No. The diffs on those cars are actually pretty strong. You know, they don't come with a Demon or a Hellcat diff. It's just that diff's in there is only going to take so much pressure. You know, and if you put slicks on the car, sorry.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of when you took a look at some of those Hellcats and you go, 700 and how many horsepower, and it's got a warranty?
And this is where some of the guys at the tracks are starting to come into a problem because, yeah, the Demons are projected to be or supposed to be a factory race car. But if you take it out of, at any point out of that factory spec, tires, what have you, you void your warranty.
Well, the cool thing is some of those cars came with the little skinny front runners.
Front runners, yep.
You know, and the one-seat delete, and it's amazing what Chrysler smartened up. for that, just that little bit of time.
Yeah, their 1320 cars, or their drag pack cars are pretty cool. But that's a small market.
Yeah, because they weren't $50.
No.
Yeah. But the cool thing is, so if you come, and again, we're walking a fine line here. If you come here, you get the car here. You can say, look, before I leave, could you guys put in this hop-up kit? And then that way, Golling becomes a Mr. Norm's, because I'm not sure how many other dealerships would be set up to do that. Maybe all of them, but you got to kind of fight for that. Well,
no. So within the power broker contract with Chrysler, there's only 2,000. 2,000. There's about 2,000 that are set out there. We're the only one, besides one other store in the state, that are power broker dealers.
In the state.
In the state. There's 2 of us.
Okay.
So, with that said, you have to be a proprietary power broker's dealer to get those parts that are in that catalog. So, like if you want the red-eye diff and axle kit, you got to come to me and buy it, or you can go buy it from another source.
Wow! But if you want it here, if somebody wanted that, how long does it take to get a diff, one of those setups?
You got your credit card?
That fast?
I got diffs in the back. You want a fascia kit? I got those.
No, we want one of these things, which reminds us. Now, you also, because you're the power brokers, you get the fine association of engines that you find behind us.
Yes.
Ready to go.
Yep. So when they come out with the 392 crate kit, and they announced that years ago, I looked at it and I talked to John and Ryan. I'm like, hey, either we're going to get in it or we're going to stay away from it, because it was a huge unknown. So I had a customer in Colorado that wanted to get into it. So I sold him a motor. And we went through the motions with them. We found out what worked, what didn't work. And now, as we transition through the years and fast forward to now, we can pretty much tell you what works, what doesn't work. And oiling, cooling, depending on the motor, oil pans, exhaust. 8 speeds are tricky because there's really nothing. That's I wouldn't say a gray area, but you have to do a lot of modifications to run a factory 8 speed. There's workarounds with that. Exhaust is a big problem with that right now. But if somebody wants to drop one of these in an older car, we can pretty much give you 90 or 95% of what you need to put it in there to get it running.
And horsepower ratings, because it's the first thing that people gravitate to?
Well, you're going from 345 on a 5.7 to 1150. Turnkey.
Now, if you could put one of these engines in, say, an older car, I mean, if somebody came in and said that, I mean, it's like, look, I got this old Belvedere. I love that engine. Can you guys put that in for me?
Yep, we can.
Really? Have it, and as soon as you can take out that old 318?
Yeah, so with that said, we'd have to understand, again, what's the customer's expectations, and making sure we're going to fulfill that within his budget. So if he wants to take out that old 318, 340, 440.
Never take out a 340.
But what you're getting is, you're getting the torque and reliability of a new engine. For when you look at dollar per horsepower, on a 392 at 485 horsepower, you can buy that motor for right around $7,000. So for you to build a Gen 2 Hemi to get you to 484, to that horsepower rating, you're going to be close to 20. And you're not going to have the throttle response unless you put Phytech or some type of fuel injection on it where you have that throttle response. These are all fly-by-wire, so you push it down, you're going to go.
So how hard is it to put one of these in, say, a fine 67 Barracuda?
So you're right around 3 weeks, about 150 hours of labor to do a standard, like a 392 5.7 swap.
So that's under, say, $500.
Pesos, maybe.
But the engines are here. It's ready to go. And then when that engine leaves, I can bring it back for 90 days if there's some kind of warranty on that? Or
we do. Yeah, so if you buy the engine with the EMS kit together, they do hold the powertrain warranty, which is 24/24. So
24/24?
Yep, 2 years, 24,000 miles.
There you go.
So with that said, but if they are on the road and they have an issue with the motor, they can still go to a dealer, they can pod the car, and they can see what may be wrong with the code that might be stored.
Even if there's, say, leaking issues?
Well...
Which we should probably talk about. there's a lot of rumors, and there's stuff that we've seen in the print, stuff that we heard, that there may be something that Roseville Moparts is doing with the famous Shadowoods team.
I have heard rumors of that.
Yeah, and?
And so they're in the process of building the UFO 2 car,
right?
Which is pretty cool. Thanks to you for introducing, the Shadowoods group to us and bringing Jim out last week. So in further conversation with Jim and a couple drop-ins over there, we're working together with Shadowoods on a powertrain setup for that, you could say.
Nice.
They have an aluminum Gen 2 Hemi that's going to be injected. That was the original plan, but now we're talking about possibly doing the 1150 with a beefed up 6-speed manual.
So one of these engines and one of the classic Shadowoods cars.
Yep, the 65 Dodge.
Look out, kids, better known as the Fatso.
Yeah, so it's been pretty intriguing, pretty exciting what we're going to do. They're actually at Milan today doing a little running with Fatso. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see where we're going to go with this.
And here's something that, a little off to the side, that at one time there was something that was kind of stuck. And they needed another set of eyes to come in here. Dave was smart enough to go to reach out.
Yeah.
Tom Tiganelli, the legendary Tom Tiganelli, the 3-time Mopar Hall of Fame and all the other Hall of Fames that he's in and everything else, was actually asked to come in and to give him an eyeball over this.
Yeah, with conversations when you brought Jim out, we had talked about that, and we showed Jim the lifter degradation that we had, trying to figure out what we were going to do. Is it a hardening of a cam issue, or is it a lifter issue? Where are we having problems with our valve train? So then Jim actually took the conversation back to Tom. And then when I went out there the first time and talked to him, Tom approached me, which I was very grateful for. Super nice guy. He offered up to come out and take a look. And I'm like, cool. Hey, I appreciate it. I just need somebody to give us some input of, you're the engine builder. You're telling me that if you've had the problem, you've lived the problem, you fixed the problem. He offered up to come out, no questions asked. So a couple days later, he came in, walked through the shop. He looked at what we had. And he kind of pointed us in the direction of either a hardening issue or a coiling issue with the springs. So we're actually mending that problem right now, and so we're good.
The bigger picture with all that is that Dave reached out to just not a brother-in-law, or the milkman or whatever. Yep. He went to the guy that was in, a part of designing this.
Yeah.
I mean, and somehow, some way, some lucky guy got Tom Tiganelli as a consultant on this motor, and I'm sure for less than $1,000 that you're going to charge that man for the consultant fee.
He did tell me it was no charge. So he goes, I won't charge you anything. So, but again, he's
amazing though that you would do that, because anybody could have just sloughed it off and said whatever. To reach that high up says what you think about your customers and the whole 9 yards of how to do this. I thought it was fascinating when we heard that.
Yeah, I mean, Tom is just, he's a book of knowledge, and you can't be too shy to learn knowledge. Because when you quit learning, you might as well take a dirt nap. So, and that's forever. But learning and understanding what you don't know is critical. And the knowledge that man has is unsurpassed in the racing history, and just basic engine geometry. If you put gas and air in it and spark, it's going to run. If it runs and you get it tuned right, run it. And that's where the sentiment he told us. But he was.
It's fascinating to listen to, isn't it?
It's very cool just to be in their presence. Like we were talking earlier, I feel myself as a simple person, and to be in their presence of awe, listening to them and talk, and them sharing their knowledge to me, and respecting their opinions and having that conversation, just makes me feel really good about what we're doing here, because Jim wants to come here. He's driven by, and he's like, yeah, I've seen you guys, but I really haven't thought about stopping in, and then the illusion of this building is it's very long, so you don't get a real sense of what the building brings until you walk through the building. And when you walk through the building and you're going, you got a lot of stuff going on here, and we got a lot of stuff going on, and and appreciative of their time, and it is just very cool. Where we're at.
And the cool thing is they're pretty close, so I guess you guys are building some kind of subway between the two places.
Pretty close. Pretty close. I got, we got some people working on that. They're in bucket brigade, so.
It'd be kind of like one of those bank things. Shunk, shunk.
Well.
Except for if you do it with Tom, I only want pictures.
That's a pretty big vacuum tube.
Around the corner here, and finally, if folks want to come here or folks need to know more about this place, not only your hours are 6 days or 5 days a week?
5 days a week. We're open 8 to 5 during the week, 7 to 2 on Sunday or Saturday with the dealership, but that's by appointment only. So Saturday, we're generally here working in the shop or something, so we have customers coming in from Canada or can only be here on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. We'll either meet them here or we'll put the parts in the main dealership for them to pick up.
Okay.
So.
And now, where can they find you on Facebook? Where can they find you on the website? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people now, especially Mopar guys, because Mopar guys always feel like we're the red-headed stepchild. You can get Chevrolet 350 parts at Meijer. Try to find something, for Mopar guys, so they find an oasis like this where you can talk Mopar. You can say, because, and again, and we alluded to this before, Mopar guys, they will test you.
Oh, yeah.
They'll go, it's like, yes, I want my 340 with the 200 intakes. You mean the 202s? Ha! Check one.
Yeah.
But once they do, they're like one of the most loyal bases around.
Yeah, and that's where we benefit with the knowledge that we have and the ability to listen and communicate with the customer and question them on what they're doing is, again, once you get that, you gain that respect from the customer, because that's what it's about, and you gain their trust, they're there. And we've made a lot of customers, a lot of friends. Greg from Australia, he comes over for about 40 days once a year, and he ships all his parts here, consolidates them here with John. We ship them to California. He puts them in a container, and then they go back over to Australia. But it's the respect that we were able to gain with that customer of being able to get him what he needs. And once you have that, then do you really want to search through all the magazines?
Yeah, Chrysler folks
with all the questions, or go to this magazine, or go online, and then you still have questions. Will this fit? If I'm replacing your under seat pan on a B or an E body, does it come with all the brackets? No. Most of those guys that are doing it at home, they'll put that seat pan in, not realizing after they got the car already painted, they're missing the brackets that weld to the floor. Well, Ryan and John are going to sit there and say, hey, do you have the brackets?
We should probably say when folks come in here, they're going to meet who behind the...
So they'll meet John Soulier, and they'll meet Ryan Radcliff at the parts counter. And then they're basically the front face of Roseville Moparts.
And folks on the internet is there somebody they email directly to, or is there...
So the three of us overwatch that all day long.
Okay.
So Ryan and John, they'll go back and forth on, I got this one, I got this one, I got this one, or they'll title it in their message, hey Ryan, I need this, hey John, I need this, or I'll get a rogue message saying, hey, I talked to Dave on this, and and I'll either copy it back to Ryan or John for them to follow up with them.
Gotcha. All right, so they can find you on Facebook?
Facebook, Roseville Moparts, RosevilleMoparts.com on the web. Mike's working on getting us up on YouTube, and our Instagram page is going. We're working on that now. But we're pretty active on Facebook right now. General questions, we try to get everybody directed towards the website because that's our preferred channel. Facebook gets washed out because my phone dings all out at nights because I got people in New Zealand that want to ask me a question and it's like 3 a.m. So I silence my phone. So we have a standard message that kicks over saying, we won't answer technical questions on Messenger, and we try to direct them towards the website. That way all three of us, when we have coverage.
Okay, and you will ship anywhere, right? I mean, we're talking about New Zealand and the...
Yep.
And, okay, because that's why if you're part of the 74 countries that CKiW iRADIO 76 is in, then you'll know that you can go to your website or your Facebook page, pardon me, and then they can pick up the parts from here. They're not like, well, we don't ship out of...
Yeah, if we physically can't ship it to their country, for whatever reason, we can ship it to a port and have it put in, and they can direct it to be put into a container. So
Gotcha.
depending on the size, if it's a parcel, yeah, we can ship anywhere. But if it's anything sizable of an order, it's got to go to port, it's got to go into a container. We'll ship it anywhere to a point, but ocean freight, they really have to handle that.
One last thing. Every year, you folks have a fine car show.
October 7th this year.
And that's here, right?
That is here at Roseville Moparts in Michigan.
Gratiot Avenue, just turn.
We're on Gratiot, just north of 10 Mile. We're on, the famous M3 highway here, just south of 696, right at the dealership. We had about 160 cars last year for our inaugural back to business show. And as you've seen,
no junk.
There was no junk here. There was quite a few Hemi cars, which I was surprised. And I'm very proud of the response that I get from the community and the customers that actually bring, that type of car here. I'm not going to say no to a 22 Turismo that kind of show quality, but it makes me feel good when I see all these customers rolling with their cars that they're proud about. It makes me feel good knowing that that's my part, that we helped them get to their car, or Mike's helped them out with this, or Ryan or John did this or that for them. But at the end of the day, it's about the customer. We're providing the show. We want them to showcase their car, whatever it is, and then we'll try to accommodate them in as many as we can.
There's a DJ here, and there's...
So we have a DJ, we'll have a food truck here, the full facility's open, the whole dealership's open that day, so if they want to go drive a new car, they can. But, the parts...
Drive the Superbird?
Well, that's not a
drive it away.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have one or two of those here this year.
If there's that guy with the white Charger, whether it be a 66, 67, whatever the hell it was, Jesus, God, we got to talk to that guy, because that thing was like right out front, and this thing was beyond flawless Hemi car, and it was and that was the first car you see when you walked in, and whoever owns that car, you're getting on my Christmas list quickly. It was amazing. And when we say no junk, sometimes when you see some of these shows, it's everybody's inclusive, and everybody likes their car and what they are. But there's sometimes where you just see like concourse level stuff, and that was here. And I mean, it was almost like you dropped your jaw. Every car was better than the one you saw next, but they were all cool all together collectively. There was the guys, the high dollar cars, and there was the daily driver cars, but still, and then everybody was cool in front of them and stuff. Yeah. An amazing thing.
Yeah, and and the store's open, if somebody wants to buy something while they're here, they can.
Like some Roseville Moparts swag?
We might get swag. We got direct connection stuff, oil, product, used parts, new parts, whatever.
See, that's why we call it all four gears. I mean, I think we've covered just about everything. Watch here. We'll add some more pictures, too. So we'll show you some of the stuff that we're talking about in the back, and up here in we're pointing like they can see it, and up here in the showroom and stuff. If you're a Mopar guy whatsoever, you're a car guy whatsoever, man, this is kind of... we know that SEMA is the Disneyland for performance stuff, but if you're a Mopar guy and you're somewhere in the Michigan area, man, this is a wonderful place to start, and I'm not sure that you wouldn't. And Dave, thanks so very much.
Appreciate it, John.
David Radcliff.
Thank you.
And thank you for staying with the only station that gives a damn about the greatest sport on earth, that's drag racing. Welcome to CKiW. Hi, Radio 76.